So since we're a little late, I'm going to introduce my guest, Kendall Wright. That's who we're introducing today. And Kendall, I'm only going to read you a little bit of his bio because I'm going to post it. But Kendall has an expansive professional career, including academic instruction, administration, military leadership, consulting, adjunct professorship, executive responsibility, and entrepreneurship. And he's presented over 5,500 workshops, seminars, and keynote presentations on 5 continents and in nearly 25 countries. He's also the author of several paradigm-shifting books, including the most recent, which is Leadership Soul. I talked about this on the show not too long ago, but this current one, Leadership Soul, can y'all see that? Leadership Soul, 21 Soulful leadership lessons from Motown, right? From the Motown hits. So I want to make sure you guys get that because we are going to be diving into the trust grid around leadership today. Kendall, thank you for being on the show. I'm so excited.
Oh, Lord, thank you so much. I'm so excited to join this conversation around something that I am truly passionate about, and that is leadership.
Yes.
And I want to commend you on the great work that you're doing with the broadcasts and all the different media platforms that you are leveraging. You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Kendall. And just out of disclaimer, I met Kendall when I moved to Ohio in 2003 and met him through a good friend of ours who we also had on the show, Laura Gentry, if you guys remember her, who was talking jazz, met Kendall through Laura. So it's just so nice how things come full circle. So Kendall, before we kind of dive into this trust leadership, tell people a little bit about Entelechy and how you got to this place of really focusing on leadership and how people show up as leaders.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I am president and CEO of Entelechy Training and Development. We work with individuals and organizations to enhance their skill sets in the critical area of leadership. We do that via executive coaching, workshops, seminars, and keynote presentations. I have been working in leadership in one way or another for well over 30 years. Started out as an instructor and worked in various capacities in education, then joined the military and served 4 years in the United States Army as a tank commander, 3rd and 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment, Fort Bliss, Texas, Kidworth, England, and Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Oh, Lord.
M60, A1s, A3s, and Challengers. Lord, did you know any other tank commanders?
Right? No. I do not.
Yes, so then I got involved in consultancy, going workshops for a national and international consulting firm. Did that for about 12 years, every day, and decided I had reached that ceiling where compensation had leveled off, opportunity had leveled off, and I was like, I can do this myself.
Absolutely.
And so I started out as a motivational speaker. I was going to be the next Les Brown. And then
Right?
I realized the world didn't need another Les Brown, but they needed a Kendall Wright.
See, say that again. Because we all have specific gifts.
Yes. So I'm a firm believer that the universe and or the marketplace will guide you to your lane.
Yes.
And I started to pay attention to the questions that people were asking, even in workshop, out of workshop, and intended to trend around leadership. And Laurel, as you know, I have an opinion for just about everything. And so as I'm offering these insights, I'm thinking, that's pretty good. And so I started to catalog these ideas, and they turned into articles and then into workshops and into books. And so I truly believe that as we elevate the leadership competence throughout the entire corporation, we elevate the entire corporation in those business metrics that really matter. Efficiency, effectiveness, and profitability.
Absolutely. And good morning, Kentucky. My friend Suzanne is in there. I think you may have met Suzanne. So, Kendall, and there's already inspiration, y'all. So one of the things that you guys are going to hear, I'll have a guest on soon named Holly, and Holly and I connected because she had this book. I saw her at an event. She had this book called Hollyisms. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is meant to be, because my team, when I left my plant in Baytown, put together this whole presentation on moralisms. And now here in Kendall, see, y'all, when things keep coming to you, you got to pay attention. Like, I should be writing down all the stuff I say. And Suzanne has told me that. A number of my friends have said, you just need to write down that stuff. And it becomes a book or becomes an article, which is amazing. So let's dive in. This whole trust grid around leadership, because we have talked about how, you know, building trust, and people will listen to what you say, but they will believe what you do. And that's where that, you know, that real trust starts to come in. Talk about this trust grid. And again, guys, I would encourage you to pick up Kendall's book, because he talks about this. This is actually in chapter, well, it doesn't have a chapter number, but it is like chapter number 6. Smiling Faces is the song, by the way, which I love. So let's talk a little bit about that grid.
Let's let the listening audience appreciate the construct of it.
Great.
The book is based on leveraging 21 Motown hits to teach challenges around leadership. Mm-hmm. And so Laurel picked up the book and was fascinated by Smiling Faces.
Yes.
And I'm sure some of us remember that song. And so the truth of the matter is that in many organizations, people are smiling, not because they are content, not because they are engaged, not because they are elated, but because they are masking the challenges with cultural dysfunction.
Yes.
And so the smile becomes a requisite accessory mm-hmm. to go along with the outfit of the day.
Right.
And so the leader who truly wants to tap into the greatest potential of the human capital that's been entrusted to him or her will want to get behind that smile and want to find out what's really going on.
Right.
To what degree are you truly respected in this environment? To what degree are you truly engaged? To what degree are you truly included mm-hmm. in the dynamics of the team and or the organization? And so I encourage leaders not to take the lazy, easy way out and just survey the boardroom or survey the break room and see, hey, everybody's smiling, everything must be okay. Wrong answer.
Right.
And so what I want them to understand is that we need to catalyze a new kind of conversation in order mm-hmm. to truly get to the essence of what truth is mm-hmm. and what trust is mm-hmm. for each individual within your sphere of influence.
Yes, agree.
So this grid helps the leader adopt the proper mindset to engage in the kind of conversations that change cultures.
I love that.
You cannot establish trust in absence of rapport and honesty.
Say that again.
You cannot establish trust in absence of rapport and honesty.
Don't hear that?
Anything that masquerades as trust mm-hmm. and absence of honesty is not trust. It's manipulation.
Right. Right.
It's deceit. It's mm-hmm. deception, mm-hmm. but it's not trust.
Right. And as you said, those smiling faces, right? Because if somebody's just smiling, they're just nodding. Okay. You don't know if that's agreement or if that's like, yeah, I'm tired of talking to you. I don't believe you anyway. So I'm just going to say yes so I can keep moving.
As a former professor, I've learned that students smiling and nodding does not mean they understand what's happening in the class.
Right.
And the same is true in the workplace.
Yes.
Same is true in the workplace. So they're smiling and nodding, and then they go off and do something other than what you expected. And now you have to burn more time, money, and resources to get to what you were hoping to get to in the first place. So,
absolutely.
Honesty, and rapport.
Mm-hmm. So take people through, because not everybody will have the book yet. And again, I encourage you guys, it's on Amazon. Take people through those pieces of the grid, the TRUS and T.
All right. So using the word trust as an acrostic to help the leader walk through what we need to be mindful mm-hmm. of to establish these quality relationships so that we can truly tap into the full potential of our associates and coworkers. Mm-hmm. So the T in trust is to tell the truth. If there is a pandemic in corporate America,
Yes.
It's the pandemic of truth
Yes.
or absence thereof.
Agreed.
And particularly when it comes to performance,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing how leaders so often think that because the leader is unsatisfied, dissatisfied
Mm-hmm.
with the performance of the associate, that somehow via telepathy, the direct report will understand how they're falling short of expectations.
Right.
It's amazing. So the first letter in the trust grid is to tell the truth. That is, provide an honest report around how the performance is meeting expectation, exceeding expectation, or falling short of expectation. Can I tap into a Kendallism here?
Absolutely.
Sugar-coated feedback leads to cavities in performance.
Oh, I like that. Y'all hear that? Sugar-coated feedback leads to cavities in performance.
And so too often leaders are sugar-coating the feedback because they're more concerned about being right instead of being effective.
See, and it's not unkind to be clear. Y'all hear me say that all the time. You don't have to be ugly to be candid, but you got to tell the truth.
Another challenge around the truth is it's easier to tell the truth in a frequent interaction than it is to try to store up and then dump it on a person at a annual review.
Right. Continuous feedback.
That erodes trust. Amen. That erodes trust right off the bat.
Right.
And so the key is to have honest report, ongoing dialogue, and stop sugarcoating the feedback.
Yes. Yes.
The R stands for respect. I could say that's probably another pandemic in the corporate environment.
Yes.
Assuming that everyone interprets respect the same way. How much more effective would it be, Laurel, for me to welcome you to the team and engage you in a conversation that sounds something like this? What is it that I might benefit from knowing about you so that we might have the most effective working relationship possible? Specifically, what are the behaviors that you use to define a respectful relationship?
Right.
That can cut months off of the ineffectiveness of the we're going to grow this relationship over time. Trust is not a function of time.
It's not.
I'll prove it to you. If you lived another 100 years, there are 3 or 4 people that if they lived 100 years with you, you still would trust.
Yes, and yes.
So it's not time.
No.
Not time. And so if we can become proactive and yet preemptive, we can get to that sweet spot in the relationship where we tap into discretionary effort, where people are doing more than what is required of them as a reciprocal of you having invested in them as a whole person.
I love that. And I got some questions about that too, that respect, but I want you to get through the whole model and then we're going to come back.
Assumed and acknowledge the value. That's how I define respect. Assume and acknowledge the value of the persons with whom we work and interact.
I love that because everybody has value. Everybody has value. So just assume they got it when they show up.
I do not buy into this notion that somehow you have to earn my respect.
Right.
It's imputed in your being as a creation of the Almighty. Respect goes along with my interaction. Now, there may be interactions that we need to coach each other up.
Right.
To the standard and expectation that I have around how you will interact with me. You're not just going to talk to me any kind of way.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Understanding is the next component of the grid. And if leaders could incorporate a simple phrase, help me to appreciate.
Okay. Help me
to
appreciate.
Appreciate how you arrived at that perspective. What contributed to that interpretation? Understanding where people are coming from, instead of assuming that humanity is this monolith of belief and practice because it's far from that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're willing to explore how people are getting to where they are, then we can get to the point where we're make maximum contribution and environments that are respectful of the full gamut and spectrum of human difference.
Right.
Help me to appreciate.
I love that.
So I would like to remind leaders that psychologists tell us that our previous experiences define our current perspective.
Yes.
So if we're living different lives, then we will definitely have different interpretations of current situations and circumstances.
Right.
Help me to understand helps us get over some of those initial hurdles.
I love that.
The next letter in the model is S, and it stands for solicit. And this is a piece that is so foreign to so many leaders.
Yes.
And it's foreign in the context that we don't ask these questions. The solicit is more as we move forward. What are the behaviors that you're looking for that would communicate to you that I am trustworthy and that I am trusting of you?
Yes.
If we don't have that conversation, then we're strapping on blindfolds and relying on psychic ability to make sure that we're doing the things that need to be done in the relationship in order to get to that sweet spot where trust really becomes a force multiplier.
Absolutely.
What are the behaviors that you're looking for as you interact with me to determine whether I'm trusting of you and that I am trustworthy?
I love that.
So the quality of the questions that you ask will dictate the effectiveness of your leadership. And lastly, the test. You have to be able to pass their test around whether you are trustworthy, whether you are trustee of them. So the problem is we try to impose on others our trust test.
Right.
That is, the things that I use to evaluate whether I can trust you, I try to keep that on you, say, trust me, trust me, trust me.
Right.
But the reality is your life experience has taught you to look at and to evaluate the prospect of trust perhaps significantly different than I do.
Yes.
So you have to pass their test, not just you believing and intending to communicate trust. You have to pass their test. And all of this needs to be intentional. Intentional. It needs to be integrated in how we lead, manage, direct, and supervise anybody within our sphere of influence. That's the trust grid.
I love that. And there's just so much. Again, I cannot recommend this book enough. There's just so much in there because that, and I'm going to start with that last one about passing their test, because leadership is not about you. It's about the people you're leading, right? Especially if you call yourself a servant leader. And so many people, if you think about solicit, right, and then passing their test, we don't want to ask for feedback because somebody might tell us the truth. And then we don't want to get their evaluation of how we did because it might not be what we think we did. But leadership is not about us. Leadership is about the other person. So Kendall, so let's start here, because we have a lot of people who are listening who are leading and who are leading teams, right? Who are the traditional definition of leader. But leadership is about behavior, right? And not just about position. So if you think about that trust model, right? Those smiling faces, how people are showing up. Talk about a specific application, maybe an example you had from a client or something, where a leader who is having challenges with their team, they think that they're trusted, but people don't do what they say they're going to do, or they get a yes and something else is done. Maybe some specific things that people can do to rebuild using that trust grid.
Yeah. So let me start by concurring with your assessment. Leadership is not about position.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective and my experience, leadership is a process.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process of influencing and directing attitudes and actions toward the actualization of the mission, the vision, and the values.
Ooh, that's good.
So whether you have a title or not, if you're influencing how someone works,
yes,
why they do that particular work, how they do that, whether you have a title or not,
yes,
and just in case you missed that, we are leaders of self first.
first and foremost.
Leaders of self first.
Yes.
And so some of us can't trust ourselves. We are so duped in self-deception that we really can't trust ourselves. I believe that's chapter number 3 around
yes.
imaginary,
yes.
imaginary competence.
Just my imagination. Yes.
Just my imagination. Thinking that you are more skilled, more competent, more impacting than you actually are.
Right.
So real life situation, you have a team that is in essence in rebellion against the leader because the leader isn't aware of their lack of emotional intelligence, an investment in the relationship, a command and control approach,
right,
micromanagement. And so we bring the team together and just have people talk about, share with the leader an example of a specific behavior or circumstance that undermined your trust for that leader. You can't do this with a group of 30 people.
No.
So, right? So you get the most immediate direct reports, and you have this, if you will, come to Jesus kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And what you have to take off the table right up front is the intent versus impact safety call.
Talk about that a little bit more.
I didn't intend to leave you feeling excluded.
Right.
Okay, I appreciate that you didn't intend to, but let's talk about what did happen.
Right.
When you are in leadership, people remember the impact of your behavior far longer than they remember the intent of your behavior.
Right. Right.
Or I would challenge any of your audience members who have investment accounts. Envision that your broker called you and said, "Hey, Kendall, I got good news and I got bad. The good news is I didn't intend to lose all your money. The bad news is I did."
Right. Right.
How long will you remember the impact versus the intent?
Yes. Yes.
So we have to stop hiding behind intent and work diligently to make sure that we are aligning the impact with the intent.
Right. And it's important.
So, go ahead.
And it's important as leaders too, when Kendall talks about intent versus impact, instead of that whole, that's not what I intended, right? That's not what I intended. That's not what I intended. Instead of owning it, right? If you have such a habit that is your first thing is that's not my intent, okay, because it takes a minute to fix things, but then follow that up with, but I own the impact regardless of my intent. And for that, I apologize, and I am going to do whatever is in my power as we talk through this to do better next time.
Now, so listen, what is it that we need to do differently moving forward so we don't have to repeat this conversation?
I don't want to make the same mistake twice. I love that. I love that.
Even when I tell you this, what we ignore becomes more.
Yes.
What we tolerate will soon take over. But what we challenge will change.
Yes. I love that. That's one of my favorite Kendall quotes. One of my favorite. Because it's true.
Get the team together and have the kind of conversation that's representative of a mature adult relationship.
Right.
Stop treating your direct reports like children.
Y'all, because I talk to leaders about this all the time. It's the same thing. Don't treat them like children, and don't treat them like family, right? Because a lot of times we are afraid to have the conversations we need to have with family, or we are so blunt with family that the message gets lost in the way it's delivered. Right? It's extremes with family. And we tolerate a lot of stuff with family because we just walk away, right? We're like, that's how Uncle James is. That's how Aunt Jenny is. And we just let it go. And that becomes a problem in your organization. So you can't, you got to remember that you're not hiring children. You're hiring adults. And hopefully, you're not only hiring family. And if you do hire family, you're treating it like a business. You're treating it like a business. So Kendall, so for those people who are really thinking agency, so they're thinking about how do I lead myself, right? So I need to start with me first, right? We're leaders of ourselves first. And they're reading your book and they're thinking about this trust model. They're thinking about this whole idea of just my imagination, right? So we've got that side that you talked about where we over believe what we can do.
Yes.
But there's the other side of that, and I talked about this on my podcast this week, which is trusting ourselves to actually to be enough, to have confidence, because we've been beat up that we're not enough because we have that micromanager. Talk to maybe the individual about how they use that trust model for their own development, as well as building that trust in their own competence, kind of the other side of the coin.
Excellent question. So I think it starts with us being committed to documenting our successes and then critiquing when we create outcomes that are different than what we hoped for.
That was put so nicely. You didn't say fail. You just said it's different than what we wanted. That was so nice. See, grace.
Oh, gosh. And so as we start to look at that, we can see patterns and then adjust as need be. And so the truth comes from the critique.
Yes.
The respect is that you are as good as you are right now, but you can get better.
Yes.
You can get better. All of us, we can get better. Exploring your motivations would be the understanding. What is it that's driving you to pursue this particular goal?
Yes.
And be honest about it. I remember I was having a conversation with an executive leadership team, and I simply asked the question, why do you want to be a leader?
That's
Crickets.
A good one. That's a good one.
Crickets. And see, if you don't understand what's driving you to being a leader, then you'll find when adversity shows up, you'll start to demonstrate some of these antisocial, counterproductive behaviors that reduce efficiency, effectiveness, and profitability. And so I would say in self-agency, that's how I would go about it.
I love that. And that ties to what Kendall said earlier, right? Around when you talk about postmortems, right? What went wrong? Seeking that feedback, that solicitation piece. We have to be strong enough, courageous enough, and humble enough to ask. And then open enough to be able to listen, to understand, not respond. Because what happens is we say, well, give me some feedback. And then every time someone says something, we're like, well, but that's not what I meant. Well, but I'm not sure you understand that right. We got all kinds of excuses around the feedback that we get. But here's the thing. Feedback is feedback. Listen to understand. And then once you're out of that situation, take what makes sense and leave what doesn't. But make sure you have had an honest conversation. As Kendall said, have an honest conversation with yourself. The stuff that you're leaving, are you leaving it because you just want to leave it and you don't want to deal with it? Or are you leaving it because truly it's not applicable? And that's a key question, just like the why question. You got to know. You got to know. So let's dive in again on this whole idea of trust. Because one of the things you said that I just love around that whole trust piece and perspective is really ensuring that we, solicit the question, get understanding. And you said, I always say, listen to understand, right? And I like the way you said, it is important for us to understand not only our why, but to understand where we're going and be able to move that clearly, right? Many, many people that I've been working with lately are having one of the biggest challenges with that why question. And even my clients, the why question is difficult. And I tell them all the time, start with the simplest. Sometimes your why is, I've got bills to pay. That's okay. Just know that. What are some of the things that you tell people around getting to that, that understanding, that why of what they're doing?
Yeah. I have, particularly this last decade or so, come to really appreciate the importance of doing values clarification.
Okay.
People aren't real clear on what their values are. They can throw out titles like trust or advocacy or just integrity. They can throw out the terms,
right,
but not really understand where they fit in a forced ranking. Because the forced ranking determines how you make decisions in your role as a leader.
Oh, that's good.
So doing a authentic values clarification activity exercise gives a leader the clarity, whether we're talking about self-leadership or multinational conglomerate. You need to understand what your values are. Yeah. Values determine your vision. Your vision will dictate your voyage.
Oh, that's good. Your vision will dictate your voyage. And I want to dig into that understanding values too and prioritizing them, because I think we also get locked into this idea that they can never change. Our priorities never change. The forced ranking never change. Like, your values are set in stone. And there may be some fundamental things, right? But their life happens. And so priorities change and values change. Talk a little bit about how we give ourselves grace in acknowledging when that's changed a little bit and recognizing it.
So in the executive coaching conversations, this comes up quite frequently. Believe me, well, I did that 10 years ago. Well, your life has changed. The definition of your personal success and your professional success has changed. And if that can change, then why would you think your values wouldn't change?
Right.
If I am a newlywed and we have welcomed a new baby into the family, my list of priorities are different from when I was a bachelor.
Right.
Okay. And so the same with every life change, you can expect that there might be some shuffling of those values. Not that they disappear from the list, but they may move from top priority to a mid-grade priority.
And those things that we focus on, what is it? What you see, you become, right? What you believe, you become. Those things that we manifest, right? And those things that we focus on, that's what transpires. And so it is important as you move through your career, as Kendall says, that you take the time to really think about that. One of the key pieces I see with a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends, and with myself as well, is this reluctance. And I think part of it's fear. Part of it is the fallacy of we just don't have time. Is this reluctance to really pause and evaluate. If this is what I expected, but this is what happened, why? But how does that align or not align with my overall values? Because it could be what I was expecting wasn't aligned in the first place. So this thing that happened wasn't necessarily bad. It was actually what was supposed to happen because it better aligns with my values. But we don't pause to really spend the time figuring that out. And it's critical.
I'm thinking of the old adage, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Yes. And if you don't know where you're going, how do you know who needs to be on your team?
Okay.
How do you know who needs to be on your team? Which leads me to this next piece, because one of the chapters also talks about advocates, mentors, advisors, sponsors, those kind of things. And whether you are technically leading people, right? Or just leading yourself. We all need those people. We all need advocates. We need sponsors. We need mentors. We need advisors. We need a village. That's why I like village as opposed to tribe. That's just my personal preference. Give people your perspective, because everybody kind of has a perspective on how they build a village. Give people your perspective from your experience, how to build the strongest village. And not only that, how you bring people in or move people out of this village.
Yeah, so that is a great question. The first thing to come to grips with is to recognize we all need help. At some point in the process, we need some assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be fearful of requesting the assistance that you need.
Yes.
If you're in the pool in the deep end and your swimming skills are such you can't get back to shore, you can't get back to the bank.
Right.
Envision you sitting out there thinking, well, I don't want to trouble anybody. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. So I won't ask for
Yeah.
I won't ask for help.
Right.
So don't wait until you're in a crisis situation
Mm-hmm.
to solicit the assistance.
Right.
Proactive and preemptive.
Yes.
So, and when you go to the person to ask for the assistance, you need to be able to articulate to them why you're asking them and what way you want them to assist,
Mm-hmm.
and how we will evaluate whether this is a good fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Odds are the person that you're asking for assistance is a busy person.
Odds are.
And so they want to help, but there's still only 60 seconds in a minute.
Right.
Still.
Right.
So you need to make a case around why they need to invest in you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Are y'all hearing this? I really need you to hear this, because that investment is time, money, and all resources. Time, money, energy. Time, money, energy. And people have limited amounts of all three of those.
Amen.
Why should they spend it with you or on you or give it to you, other than just out of the goodness of their heart?
We as mentors and coaches, champions,
Mm-hmm.
sponsors,
Mm-hmm.
we have the responsibility to make sure that we help the person making the request
Mm-hmm.
clarify why.
Right.
Not just so they have some fame or esteem by association. Laurel Rutledge is one of my coaches.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right.
But the question is, why did you choose me?
Right.
And how do you believe I can help you? And so that's my question back. I love to be a part of. I think the team now. The term is my personal executive team.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I love
Executive
to be
team, board of directors, or whatever. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You go. But I need to understand what it is you think you can get from me.
Mm-hmm.
Identify 3 things that you want to work on.
Right.
We'll put a plan together for a specific amount of time. This is not a lifetime obligation.
Right.
And we'll evaluate the progress.
Yes. Right. And that's the thing I think people don't understand is, if you're serious and you're soliciting help from serious people, they're going to expect that you have done the work that demonstrates that you're serious. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't just come to somebody and say, hey, can you help me? Hey, I'm just having an issue. Or if that's where you are, you still are prepared to say, you know what? I have no idea what's going on. I am sitting in confusion. And what I really need is just some help with clarity. I don't even know how to put it other than that. Right? But if you've done the work, if you're really serious, that comes through. If all you're doing is just trying to connect to build your network, to be able to see how many followers and all that kind of stuff you got, people see through that. And not only are you potentially wasting their time, right? It goes back to Kendall's trust model. how have you established their ability to trust you, right, with the resources they're giving you when you have not come prepared? Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. You got to come prepared, right? Because these relationships are also two-way relationships.
Yeah.
What are they going to get out of it in terms of their time, energy, money for serving? Got to answer that question.
That is the proposition that needs to be clear. It needs to be revisited throughout the course of the interaction, the relationship. So, you know, I love to help. I love to help, but I only have so much time.
Right. Right.
So trust me, if I give you an assignment in my role as your mentor or coach, what have you, and you don't execute it, it's really time for us to do an assessment about, is this working?
Right. Right. And it's not about being mean. That's the thing. All of a sudden we get all in our feelings. I'm talking about that today, this whole idea of being persecuted, because we're leading with our emotions, right? And when we lead with our emotions, then anything that isn't completely aligned with what we want or what we feel, they're just being mean to me. They don't get it. I'm not respected. Insert thing here. Because you're leading with your emotions. That doesn't mean you can't be passionate. That doesn't mean you can't be compassionate. But if you're thinking first with your feelings, if you're all, as they say, in your feelings, right, you're not going to be able to hear the things that are really constructive for your good, because you're too busy trying to be centered around whatever it is you want, regardless of whether that thing makes sense or its impact to everyone else around you, including the person who's trying to help you.
You nailed it.
So when people are trying to get help, and just so you guys know, as Kendall said, every coach needs a coach, right? Physicians need physicians, therapists need therapists. Everybody needs help. None of us gets through this world alone. None of us gets through this world alone, through this life alone. What are some of the criteria you use, Kendall, or have used to decide, one, when it's time to actually seek help versus pulling up your bootstraps, right? Because people struggle with that too. And then when you do decide to get the help, how do you evaluate where you should get it and who you should go to?
All right, good question. So the older I've got, the more comfortable I am in asking for the assistance that I need. When I was younger, I'm thinking, hey, I got this. I'm a smart guy. I can work this out.
Right.
And I really believe that I slowed the trajectory of my career in some regard by not seeking out assistance.
Right.
So how do I choose? I'm looking for someone who is where I want to be. A person who's reflective and introspective enough to help me to appreciate the path that they walk to get there.
Right.
And whether I'm looking for a coach or a mentor, the coach will help with the practical skills components of a role, and a mentor will tend to help with a strategic perspective,
right,
associated with the role. Right? And so looking at how they interact with other people, particularly people who look like me.
Right.
Are they sensitive enough to be aware of divergent appraisal, where you have two people demonstrate the same behavior, but the behavior is labeled and valued differently?
Yes.
Contingent upon who the performers are, not what the performance is.
Right.
And so just looking at their track record and seeing, might this person be a good candidate? Do we connect? Do we click personally?
Right. 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 And I think often, as you said, we see these people and we're like, I've got to have that person as a mentor. Like, I'm determined to get to Clarence Avant. Please, Clarence, I need you to just stay around. I'm going to keep tagging you and stuff until we can meet, because I think he's amazing. And I know specifically why I want to talk to him, right? But so many times, as you said, we get these stars in our eyes about, I just gotta, I've got to be able to say that I'm connected to Brene Brown, or I got to be connected to, Tony Robbins. You see some of the people that have gone to his stuff, and it's like, oh, I got a picture with Tony Robbins. Well, that's lovely. But what is the relationship? And what did you get out of it personally? And what did you bring to it? Was it just window dressing? Did it really advance your goal? Did you learn something? Or did you come out of that different? And different doesn't necessarily mean you completely changed. Different sometimes means just stronger and more convicted or clearer. Or not. Did you just get the selfie?
And if that's all you want, that's fine.
Exactly.
That's not to incriminate
No.
those who pursue the collage of selfies with celebrities.
Yes.
So be it.
Get the selfie. But be clear that what you're getting is the selfie. What you're not getting is a relationship. Those are two different things.
Amen.
Those are two different things. And we've got to understand how we build those relationships that are authentic, right? That are transparent. And again, transparency doesn't mean you air all your dirty laundry and people know what happened to you from the time you were born. That's not what transparent means, right? But it does mean being able to be vulnerable enough and honest enough to allow someone to support and to assist you. And if you're not there yet, it's okay, but understand that that's a block to the depth of the engagement, right?
It's like going to your doctor and not being honest about the symptoms.
Yes.
That you're struggling with. And then get frustrated when the doctor can't prescribe a solution or a remedy for the circumstance.
Exactly. And it's funny why I'm the daughter of a nurse, right? And nurses are interesting. They're not the best patients. And I've told her that, so I'm not speaking out of turn. But it's interesting when you go to a doctor or you go to a nurse practitioner, whoever. And why is that the one place where we don't tell the truth? Right? Why do we not? We're going to go in and we're so embarrassed by the pain or the nodule or the mole or the whatever that we don't tell the truth. And the damage that can cause for us by simply not speaking the truth. And if you'll remember Kendall's model, the trust model, the first T is tell the truth. Tell the truth. Honest. Because here's the thing. You can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself.
Not for long.
Not for long. Not for long. It's going to come up. It's going to come up or it's going to come out. It is going to show itself one way or the other. And so if you are really focused on being the best leader you can be, on being the best human you can be, right? On showing up to serve and influence, right? Because again, it's about behavior. It's not about the title or position. It's about behavior. Then one of the things you get really comfortable with is telling the truth and being honest and being transparent. And that word that is way overused, but it's true, being authentic. But that doesn't mean, especially the higher you get in the organizations, that doesn't mean everybody needs to understand how the sausage is made. They just need to know we're going to be having sausage. But you've got to be able to establish truth. I love it, man. It's so clear to me, right? I'm visual. It's so clear to me. But that trust model that Kendall talks about, in order for you to truly lead, to truly serve, to make an impact on your organization, to make an impact on your own career, to make an impact in your life, is dependent on your ability to be honest, to seek feedback, right? To understand, right? To get respect. Those are really, really important. And to be tested, because we're all tested every day. We may not like it, but just the fact that we show up some days is test. So, Kendall, maybe some specific guidelines for people. And you mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, because everybody's journey is different. Truly, every single person's journey is different. And the journey of women and people of color can be specifically treacherous, for lack of a better word. What are some maybe specific kind of tips and tricks that you would give to those people, to women who are trying to just let me be great, right? And to the people of color who like, just let me be great, knowing that there's unconscious bias. And he talks about that in the book too, guys, about bias. What are some quick tips and tricks you would tell people who are in one of those other categories to determine, because we got to be clear, sometimes it's microaggression, sometimes we got to own our own stuff. It's not always somebody doing something to us. We got our own stuff. Maybe give some people some tips and tricks about how they navigate this thing.
Yeah, the first requirement is you have to be committed to excellence.
Committed to excellence.
You do not want your competence to be in any way in question.
Yes.
Be the best that you can possibly be. All right? Then I would say ask a lot of questions to understand how things are really operating within your environment. Asking versus assumption.
Yes.
Then action over analysis. Too many of us are paralyzed in analyzing all of the options we have available to us, so much so that we miss out on opportunity. Choose an action and follow it through.
Yes.
You're going to either learn why it was successful or learn how to modify it to create that success.
Yes. Yes. I don't know how many times I have to tell people, there's a difference between being slow and precise and quick and approximate. And sometimes you got to be quick and approximate. You need to just move, but be flexible enough to understand, look, I've got enough information to at least be able to make a decision, but I'm going to be open enough to get the additional information to know where I need to modify, where I need to flex. Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing is, let me rephrase that because I'm about to say an absolute, right? Very few things are absolute, right? Very few things are absolute. One thing is absolute. We all are going to go out of here one way or another at some point in time, right? That's an absolute. I wouldn't even say taxes. Everybody says death and taxes. I wouldn't even say taxes anymore because apparently you get a choice whether or not you're going to pay those. You just got to decide if you're willing to take the penalty, right? But we all are going to go out of here at some point. Everything else you do, there's an opportunity to recover from that. There's an opportunity to modify. There's an opportunity to learn and make a change if necessary. It's all learning. It's all learning.
So that's the next point. Value learning over luck.
Ooh, value learning over luck. I love that.
Willie Mae said anybody can be lucky every now and then. The key is to be great every day.
Ooh, yes. Yes. That's so true. And I'm like, oh, I felt that one, right? Because we do rely on luck. Or if we see, especially in this era of social media, oh man, how come they got that opportunity? I can't believe, their book sold. I can't believe they got that client. How come, right? Why come I didn't? When is it my turn? But what we're not seeing is the effort that someone has been putting in. We're not seeing their behind the scenes. So they say, stop comparing your behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel.
Come on now.
Right? I love when I saw that quote, I'm like, yes. Yes.
It takes my wife, Marva, to talk about that. When people say, oh, Kendall's so successful. And she's like, you don't understand. This man works around the clock.
Yes.
Laura, you can remember when we were a little younger.
Yes.
To stay up 2-3 nights in a row, go do a presentation, drive to Batesville, make a presentation, then drive back to Cincinnati. Can't do that anymore.
No, sir.
But we put in the effort to accumulate that momentum. The snowball is getting bigger because of what we did 15, 20 years ago.
Exactly. And that's the challenge I have with some of the earlier career people. So let me be clear. That whole idea of work till you drop, unless you're on your deathbed, just go to work. I mean, there's some stuff that was just nuts that we did, right? That's just, we did need to swing the pendulum back. But there is value in experience, guys. So this whole idea of I shouldn't have to work as hard. I shouldn't have to do the things. I shouldn't have to do the grunt work before I get to do the exciting work. Here's what I want you to do to change that perspective. The learning is in the grunt work. When you do the grunt work, when the hard stuff comes up, that's when you are able to respond because you understand what built that. You know, when we talk safety, I remember having this conversation with a safety manager, a safety director a long time ago. And we got into this big discussion about driving to zero, right? All these plants, no matter what kind of manufacturing is, they want to drive to zero incidents, right? We don't want anyone hurt. We want everybody to go home the way they came here. It is lofty. It is fantastic. It is absolutely the mindset you should have. And yet, the downside of driving to zero is that on that occasion, when you have an incident, there is nobody there who knows how to address it because they don't have experience with an issue.
Interesting.
There is value in the failure. There is value in having gone through the tough time. There is value in having experienced the unexpected and having to figure out how to deal with that. So don't automatically poo-poo that manager who's like, no, you know, you got to put in the extra hours because you've been here 2 minutes. It's not that they're just putting upon you. As they say, my dad told me this fable. Everybody who dumps on you is not, you know, your enemy. Everyone who picks you up and dusts you off is not your friend.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dump is the learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to break stuff down to build it up.
Can we look at the other side of that?
Absolutely.
We have folks who are long tenured who believe that because of that long tenure, they are automatically qualified for whatever promotional opportunity that might come forward.
Yes.
It's just not true. Since we're telling daddy's story.
Right?
My daddy was a proud member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Work.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some difference of opinions, different philosophies regarding work,
right?
Particularly when I was in college. But one thing my daddy would always say: some people have 25 years of experience, but some people have the same experience for 25 years.
Yep. Yes, and yes.
So it's not your tenure that qualifies you for the position.
It's not.
And as HR professionals and quasi-HR professionals, we have to stop telling people you need 5 years of experience to qualify for this job.
Right.
No. What was it the person was supposed to have mastered in that 5-year period? That's the qualification for the job. It's not the time.
Exactly. Because not all time is valuable.
Well,
not all time is valuable. You know, so we started late. I just looked at I could talk to you for another 2 hours. I just looked at my watch and we are so behind. My fault because I had a technology issue. And I wanted us to still be able to have a lot of time with Kendall. So Kendall, as we get ready to end this week's episode of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show Live, what is the 1 or 2 things that you would leave everyone with as they are moving through this career as leaders, as influencers? What is the thing that you tell them to focus on?
Number 1, if you surround yourself with capable leaders, you'll be able to achieve incredible results.
That's good.
Number 2, never fail to deliver your best. Know that you need accept nothing less. Aspire, cultivate, and test. And God will take care of the rest.
Oh, see? Y'all see why I asked Kendall to be on? Do you see? Dropping dimes of wisdom, dollars, $50 bills of wisdom. Kendall, thank you for being on the show today. And I so appreciate it. We'll have to do it again. I'll make sure that I set the right time on the StreamYard. Everybody, thank you for joining in. I appreciate your being here. Suzanne, thank you from Kentucky. That's the only one I can see on my banner here. Thank you all for tuning in and for being a part of the Rutledge Perspective Show. Jerry, I don't know if we had any comments or engagement there. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we will catch you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.